it's Pixie. Shameless self-promotion, go to athapixie.com. The link is at the beginning and the end of my video, and down below, and on my banner. It's everywhere. Please only visit my website if you are 18 years or older. However, today's video is not going to be age restricted. I did a really quick video on boundaries, and almost immediately after I recorded it, I was online and I saw something saying some state, probably in the South, probably South Carolina, I might put in a nice little caption when I figure out what state it is, said that once sex has been initiated, consent cannot be withdrawn. I have so many words about this. I have so many emotions, and first of all, it's bullshit. And I really hate that, in essence, that law is, if it sticks, of course, is legalizing rape. Because, consent is not a gray area. Consent is given freely and can be revoked at any time. Consent is, hey, you can borrow my water bottle. And then they take it and they use it, and you're like, hey, I need my water bottle back, I need to use it. You give them their water bottle back. I revoked the consent for you taking my water bottle, and you gave it back to me. That's what non-douchebags do. And why should my body, your body, all of our bodies be any different? I can say, yeah, sure, you can rub my bald head. I can also say no. I can also say, okay, enough of that. I'm not comfortable with you continuing to rub my head. Like, I don't even have words. Like, I have so many, I just don't. I don't understand how we got to this point. I don't understand how we were able to continue to progress and move forward and become better people on a whole. Yeah, sure, we had some idiots, we had some bigots, we had people who wanted to be controlling on a more individual basis. At least that's what I thought. And it seems to be everyone in the government has lost their damn minds. I didn't intend this channel to be political. BDSM is controversial enough. But I can't not talk about what's going on in the South right now. I live in Georgia. One of the states, one of the 5-6 states that is like, hey, you missed your period? You can't have an abortion because it's been over 6 weeks. Sorry, I have to rant a little bit, because if you understand consent, like, I don't understand how this is a question. I am consenting to have sex, and I'm accepting those risks because I'm going to do something about it. Personally, I take birth control. It is 98% effective. I have been lucky. I've never had any scares. But I am a minority, and I know that if I ever get pregnant, I don't want it. I'm 30. I don't want it. I've never had kids. I've never wanted kids. I went through a couple short spans of time where I was like, maybe in the future. No. This is the future. I don't want it. And I don't want to put my body through that stress. I don't want to put my finances through that stress. I don't want to not be able to work because I'm self-employed. If I don't work my ass off, I don't make money. If I don't uphold my end of the bills, I don't have a place to stay. So this, kid is not, it's not a part of my plan. It's not a part of my life. It's not what's going to happen. And the foster care system is horrible. I have heard so many horror stories from people who were in it, and people who were foster parents, and people who are social workers. No, that's not ethical. In my opinion, putting another child into the foster care system is not ethical. In my opinion, forcing a woman to go through a pregnancy that she doesn't want is not ethical. It's not safe. It is not a symbol of the best country, the most advanced society, making America great again. It's not any of this. It's not forward thinking. It's archaic. It is archaic to think that a young teenager who maybe was stupid and had sex without a condom, maybe it broke, maybe they were raped, their body is not really developed enough to have a child anyway. Why would we force it? There were cases with legal abortion of teenagers hiding pregnancy, having the kid, and then murdering it because they didn't think there was another option. Think about that for a moment. With abortion being legal, that was already an issue. Why? Because it's abstinence-only schooling. Because you've got uber-religious parents that are like, no, you're going to carry this child to term. Or, it was God's will. Didn't mean to get on this political rant, but with the essential legalization of rape, and rape and incest seem to be the two things that most people are like, oh yeah, you can abort if it was rape or incest. I'm sorry, there's a lot of other situations that make getting pregnant not okay. It shouldn't have to be rape, incest, or a legitimate medical excuse. It's my body. It's my life. It's, in essence, a parasite. It can't live on its own. It can't breathe. It can't think. There's no central nervous system. But to essentially legalize rape by saying once the sexual act has started, you can't withdraw consent is insane. If somebody has, for example, a past sexual trauma, they don't necessarily know before it starts if they're going to be triggered and have a flashback. And your partner should be a decent human being and stop. If you're like, oh, not okay. And hopefully, most people are still going to be decent human beings and stop. And that's regardless of gender. If your partner says stop, you stop. And apparently now that's just a show of good faith and an act of goodwill, because we don't even have the laws protecting us. Not that the laws ever did much good anyway. Rapes still happened. Rapes have gone either unreported or reported and ignored. I have no faith in the system. I'm sorry. And that's why we need to be as careful as possible and as safe as possible within the community, within our lives. Obviously, kind of going back to the abortion thing, birth control, like in pill form, or the ring, or an IUD, or, I mean, condoms, of course. Diaphragms, are they still being sold? Sponges, I think those got taken off the market. All of these things are things that can have negative effects. And I'm not talking about, oh, it feels better to have sex without a condom. Like, that's bullshit. Your partner's safety comes first, because pregnancy isn't the only thing we're worried about. Like, there are diseases too. But those options aren't always available. Some people have really negative effects on hormonal birth control. And the pill is generally hormonal. Sometimes it's more than others. Like there's one that I think is 2 hormones, the other one's just 1. The ring is also hormonal. Some IUDs are hormonal. I had a friend who got the arm implant, and it was great for I think it's supposed to be allowed for 5 years, and it was great for 2 of them, and then she started having a bunch of really negative side effects. I've heard women who get the internal, vaginal, I don't know how it works. I'm not a sciencey person, but the internal, typical IUD, and then, bled heavily for, 3 months and had to have it removed because it was a side effect. All of these things are great. I am so glad that we have all the birth control options we have. But some people have really negative side effects to one or more of them. Condoms, if you have a latex allergy, it's harder to find latex-free condoms. Which is also bullshit. They should be just as easy to find. And it's up to both parties to have their options and have things taken care of. If you are a vagina-wielding human, then, and you are interested in penis-wielding humans, then keep latex-free and latex condoms on hand. Unless, of course, you have an allergy. And then, of course, make sure you have the one that you can use. And if you're a penis-wielding individual, keep the condoms that you're not allergic to. Keep both options if you don't have allergies, because you never know what allergies your partner will have. And talk about this stuff. And use multiple methods if you can. There's spermicidal lube. Throw that in the mix. If you don't have allergies. And uterus-wielding individuals, watch your cycles. It's not foolproof, but watch it. Anything can help. And these are scary times. These are really scary times for all of us. And if you are a cisgender male, you should be scared too. Because the future I'm unfortunately imagining, if this law sticks, is newly married hetero couples trying to have their first child and for some reason it's not working, and there's a miscarriage, and suddenly the lovers are split. So there's no excuse for anybody being okay with this law. If you are pro-life, then you need to be pro-women surviving, pro-uterus-wielding individuals surviving. Because if abortion is taken off the table completely and people end up in these situations, there will be consequences. There will be the archaic back alley abortion. Don't live in a fantasy world. And that not only kills the infant, but it often kills the mother. That's not pro-life. The bills that are being put on the table about death penalty for people who get abortions, the death penalty, how is that pro-life? And how is it pro-life to put a child in the government system for them to be abused? Because don't try to say that it doesn't happen. A lot of parents and siblings and other adopted or foster care children are abusive. It happens. And it might not be all of them, but I would be willing to say it's most of them. And how is putting a child through in one home, and as soon as they get comfortable, they get pulled and into another home and just tossed around until they're 18 and they don't know how to function? How is that pro-life? How is it pro-life to condemn somebody who is essentially a child themselves, just a teenager, to having their own child? They have destroyed their own lives. They can no longer finish. I mean, some can manage to finish going to school, but that's if they've got parents that are willing to take care of it. And they're not ready to be a parent. And a lot of times the child ends up resenting their parent or the grandparent, or you end up in these weird situations where the grandparents adopt the child and then refuse to acknowledge that they're biologically the grandparents. And it's an utter betrayal when they find out. Like, there's so many situations, there's so many things that need to be taken into account. And guess what? If we actually talked about sex and we actually talked about options and protection and safety that isn't abstinence only in schools, the need for abortions might drop. If we actually made birth control available to the people who need it, as opposed to just the people who can afford it, then we might see a drop in the need for abortions. How about instead of illegalizing abortions, we try to reduce the need for them? That's pro-life. That's what society needs, and that's what we're refusing to give society. We refuse to talk to our teenagers about sex and the consequences. Instead, we show them diseased genitalia and don't talk to them about safety and, well, you're going to do it anyway, so how about you be careful? How about you be safe? How about let's actually talk to our children? and it might be uncomfortable, but it's better than them figuring things out online or with their peers, or what happens if, because that's what we're doing. We're making kids teach kids instead of the adults who actually understand this stuff teaching. The health classes in school are pretty useless, and giving the option to, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask, it's not helpful. Teach it. So if you're a parent listening to this, talk to your kids about sex. If you are pro-life, I hope I have given you some things to think about. Because when the Roe versus Wade first went into effect, there were some pro-lifers that actually understood why the law was put there. Even though in their own land, in their own world, in their own faith, in their own household, they didn't approve of it. That's not for you to judge everybody else. There are very few arguments, if any, that are against abortion that are not religiously founded. And I'm going to say this, most people don't encourage abortion. They just want that safe option. I'm doing everything I can, and I always have, to make sure that I don't get an unwanted pregnancy. But I do like when I have the comfort of knowing that an abortion is available if I ever need it, as opposed to trying to think about, what herbs should I take? How about I don't go to the doctor, because if they find out that I had a miscarriage, then I could be prosecuted. Like, that's not safety. It's not safety. And I have rambled on long enough. I'm going to post this video with my other boundaries video, since they do kind of connect. And until next time,